There you go, you handsome fishos. Today we're going to talk about chasing mangrove jacks. The lures that I use, the techniques, the gear, the knots, how I go about it. Also I'm going to play some footage. There is bycatch where I did catch a SEQ barramundi in the canals here in a sneaky location. I have landed every jack that has hit. As I said in my brim fishing video, I spent a lot of time chasing brim and perfecting that technique so that when I do get that hit of a lifetime on a jack, I haven't missed one. So what I mainly use is I normally use the Daiwa Current Master. Okay, so it's got the casting weight system where it's got a transfer bar. It's got a weight that's on a magnet that sticks to either end. Now when you cast that, it darts. It's very, very good in the wind. If you do get a summer's day, good day to chase jacks, and there is no wind, I use the Rapala Shadow Wrap Shad Deep. Okay, it's very small. Now the hooks that I replace, because as these float, they float up like this. So when I put the bigger hook on, the mangrove jack go for a head take. 9 times out of 10, it's around the main hook. These hooks are very weak. They're VMC, they're 3 times, but they're very weak. This here is the exact same owner that the jackal squirrels use. Okay, so that is the owner in size 2. Okay, so what I do is I take the front one off, I replace it with the owner size 2, and I keep it brand new for replacing the back ones, because I also use these on flathead. So these have the best action, and they just sit dead buoyant like this, and if you crank them aggressively, they do a 180 turn. So the best thing is to have about a foot slack and just violent crack, and it'll go thump, and it'll just do a 180, and that might be enough to entice a strike. Only thing though, is they're very hard to cast in the wind, and it is windy most summers when you're chasing them. That's why I always go back to the Current Master, because they just dart, they swim perfect. You go the deep, because when you do bend the bib, if you have a look at this one here, it's bent right. So if it's bent right, it'll swim that way. So when I'm winding it under the pontoon, it'll go under the pontoon and fight. That's why you want it deep. Because if you go shallow, it'll hit the pontoon, because you lose depth, because instead of it going this way, it's now going this way. So it doesn't quite go as deep. But I caught my first, a double clutch 115, a barra lure. That's the first jack that I caught, which was 50 centimeters. I caught that on one of them. Actually this one here, it was this one here, and I caught it on. That's the first one. It's a little bit big. Then after that, I caught a barramundi on the gold one of these Rapala Shadow Wraps, which I've got in here. The gold. So I caught a barramundi on one of them, and then it's actually this color here, this pearl. I've caught the last 4 mangrove jacks just on this color here on the Current Master. Alright, so that's the hooks. So that's the owner hook, size 2 and 4. That's to replace the jackal squirrels. Hank tune, where it's the heavy duty. I don't really use them because they don't cast that well. They swim great, they just don't cast that well. The other thing that we use is the barra baby mullet lure, and that's a swim bait, and that's perfect. I've got a few big flathead. I haven't landed a jack on it yet, but I just don't use it very often, because the fact that you can bend the bibs on these, oh, that one's bent too, so that they swim straight under the pontoons, 9 times out of 10, that's just the best you're going to get. Now what I do when I tie my knots as well, I'll just get my rod, is I tie a PR knot. Okay, so everyone's got the argue about whether the PR is better than the FG. Think about it this way. The FG holds because the braid cuts into the leader. It actually pulls that tight that it cuts into the leader to hold it. If you've got 30 pound and you're cutting into that, that's not 30 pound anymore. That's weaker. PR knots are far superior knot than FG. They are. And at the end of it, the FG's a little bit thinner, but when you're doing all the twists and the granny knots and all the stuff at the end, the knots are thicker. It does not make a difference. The PR is a far stronger knot, and it never, ever, ever loosens. Now the one thing you want to do is you want your knot to never go up the guide of your rod. You never want it there, you want it braid, because that can tangle. Now what I use is the DC Corrado, which it has a chip. With the chip, every 1,000th of a second, it registers whether to magnetize the speed up of the spool or magnetize it down to slow. If you hit a bit of a wind gust, it'll go 1/1000th of a second and go slow down, speed up, and it'll control it. It's got a chip in it. I've never had a bird's nest on this. It is just amazing. It's got 5 kilo drag. I only use 30 pound. 30 pounds all you need, because at the end of the day you want to get the bite. I have only a 3 meter polycraft boat too, so I am only a foot off the water. So the reason why I land all mine as well is because I can dip that rod down low, which you will see in the video. As soon as I get that hit, boom, drop down low. As long as your rod tip is lower than the mangrove jack, because the mangrove jack is going to swim, here's the pontoon, he's going to be swimming sideways, he's going to be trying to rub you off, forwards and back. Now if your rod is higher, so don't be scared to put your rod in the water, you need to put it in the water, because if your rod tip's higher, that means that braid and that leader is rubbing along those sharp edges and everything. If your rod tip's lower, he's swimming up and down rubbing you, but it's not touching. So that's the trick. Anyway, I'll play some footage. Let me know how you go. Cheers. Yeah, buddy. Second jack for the season, we got. That was one of the hardest hits I've ever had. There you go. Oh, I thought I had a snag from hell. God, mighty. Oh yeah, barramundi. Who did it? I did it.